Have you ever thought that maybe your favorite movie is more than just a way to kill a couple of hours? I mean, what if it's actually a secret masterclass in strategy? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most beloved films of all time and show you how it can double as a roadmap for navigating, well, pretty much anything life throws at you. So let me just ask you this straight up. What if that movie you've watched 100 times, the one you can quote line for line, is secretly loaded with lessons on power, influence, and mastering your own path? That's the perspective we're taking today, and trust me, it's a game changer. Okay, so to really get this, we first need to introduce you to a certain kind of person, an archetype we're going to call the navigator. These are the folks who don't just get by in life, they seem to master the whole game. So what is a navigator? Well, think of them as someone who can just skillfully sail through choppy waters. They get how power works, they understand the people around them, and they manage to do it all without getting dragged into the mud themselves. You know that one person at work who just floats above all the drama? Yep, that's probably a navigator. So, how can you spot one of these navigators out in the wild? Well, they're always asking questions, super curious people. They've got a ton of different hobbies, and they can strike up a conversation with literally anyone. But they're pros at sidestepping messy, controversial topics. But their biggest tell, they just fit in anywhere, kind of like a chameleon. So where do we find the perfect example of a navigator in action? Well, believe it or not, the ultimate case study comes from a place you'd never, ever expect: inside the walls of a maximum security prison. And here's the really cool part. This ultimate navigator, it's not some obscure figure from a history book. It's a character I'd bet you already know, and you probably love him. That's right, Andy Dufresne, the quiet banker who gets wrongly convicted of murder. See, when you watch his story again, but with this strategic lens, it stops being just a story about hope. It becomes an incredible, step-by-step masterclass in navigation. And you know, this archetype is totally timeless. You can draw a direct line from Andy Dufresne to a more modern character like, say, Marty Byrde from Ozark. They're both these financial geniuses who use that one specific skill, not just to survive, but to actually thrive in these incredibly dangerous, high-stakes environments. Okay, so how in the world did he pull it off? To really break it down, we're going to borrow a framework from a book you've probably heard of, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Now, it's a bit of a controversial read for sure, but you can't deny it gives us some amazing tools for understanding what Andy was doing. The first big tool in Andy's toolbox? That would be Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Now, I know it sounds kind of manipulative, but really, it's all about making yourself so valuable that you become essential. And how did Andy put this into practice? His amazing knowledge of finance and taxes, of course. He started with just one guard, then another, and before you know it, he's running all the books for the whole prison, including the warden's shady, illegal side hustles. He made himself so critical to their entire operation that getting rid of him wasn't even an option. He became absolutely indispensable. But it wasn't just what he knew, it was when he used it. His timing was flawless. And that brings us to another big one, Law 35. Master the art of timing. I mean, think back to that legendary scene on the roof. Andy overhears a guard stressing about taxes on an inheritance. He literally risks getting thrown off the roof to offer his advice at that one perfect critical moment. It was a massive gamble, but by nailing his timing, he didn't just get a few beers for his buddies, he completely changed his status and his life inside that prison, forever. But here's the thing that really pulls it all together. And it goes right back to those traits of a navigator. Andy wasn't a one-trick pony. He wasn't just the finance guy. He was well-rounded. His knowledge of geology, his hobby of carving little stones, his love of opera and movies, these weren't just ways to pass the time. Every single one of those interests ended up playing a massive part in his survival and, yeah, his eventual escape. It just goes to show you that being curious about a lot of different things is basically a superpower. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? What can we learn from a banker trapped in a prison? Well, the lessons from Shawshank aren't just for people behind bars. They're for any of us trying to figure out the tricky parts of our own lives. The core idea here is actually really simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. This isn't about trying to control other people. It's about empowering yourself by being really, really good at something. When you master a skill that people need, you create your own freedom. Whether that's freedom with your finances, your career, or just your life in general. Which leaves us with one final, fun question to chew on. The next time you sit down to watch a movie you absolutely love, try to look a little closer. Look past the plot, past the cool action scenes, and ask yourself, what hidden masterclass, what secret roadmap is waiting there for you? Thanks for tuning in.